going to speak to Dale Wilcox, Executive Director and General Counsel at the Immigration Reform Law Institute. And we're the first to report the group's new report on the top 10 worst sanctuary cities in America. And none of these, I think, will surprise you, at least at the top echelons. So it's important to break down exactly how you get to be among the worst of the sanctuaries in America. And this is one of these things. Dale, it's so great to have you on the show. Is there another law where there is a sanctuary where you can have, is there another, of all of our thousands of pages of code throughout the country, is there another law that we just all agree you can break it if you just feel very passionate about it politically?
Absolutely not. These politicians in these sanctuary communities have gone rogue, and they have thumbed their nose at the federal immigration authorities and basically said, we're not going to cooperate with you, even though you want criminals removed from our communities. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, look, I'm just saying that if we start playing games like this, for me, I've got two automobiles. One is a German automobile from a very well-known automaker known for luxury vehicles. And I've got another one, which is a late model, brand new, made in Ohio, luxury SUV. And these things are safe at 110, 120 miles an hour, but the speed limit in my neighborhood is 55. So I would like a sanctuary for me to speed, because it's, again, I'm not harming anyone. I'm a very safe driver. I don't have any car accidents in the last 17 years. So I have one ticket during that time. So I think I should have a sanctuary. So how come illegal aliens get sanctuary, but I can't have a sanctuary? How did we get to this madness? I'm serious. This is madness that we have sanctuaries.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. Applying the rule of law is what sets us apart from most every other country on earth. We abide by the rule of law. It's number one in the United States, and it makes us a safe and prosperous country. These politicians are playing political games. I mean, it's all about power. It's all about trolling for potential future voters. I mean, believe it or not, and sadly, the Democrat Party is pretty much wholesale sold out to this belief that we need to keep these criminals in our community. They are trolling for future voters. Nobody will listen to their people with reasonable minds will not vote for their policies, so they're importing voters. It's sad, but it's putting innocent people at risk in our communities.
I agree with you. I also would like a sanctuary from Texas. So those are the two that I want. All right. So Dale Wilcox, again, Executive Director, General Counsel for Immigration Reform Law Institute. How do you want to go through it? Because we got a list of 10 here. We'll report them all out at Breitbart.com in a bit. But do you want to go through 10 to 1? You want to go through 1 to 10? I think it's probably good. Let's start at the top. That's my view. And you can give me a little bit of background on each.
Yeah, sure. Not surprisingly, San Francisco, California ranks number one in our book. And to put together this list, what we did, our investigators issued a Freedom of Information Act request to the federal government regarding who was complying with requests by federal immigration authorities to hold criminal illegal aliens for deportation. And we found that San Francisco was especially egregious. Most of us have heard about Kate Steinle, who was shot and killed by an illegal alien, and that illegal alien specifically said that he had chosen San Francisco as his home because of their sanctuary policy. There are lesser-known people, Drew Rosenberg, who was riding a motorcycle and was hit by an illegal alien who didn't initially kill him when he hit him on the motorcycle. He killed him when he ran. He backed up over him repeatedly, trying to escape the scene. San Francisco has refused here recently over 530 immigration hold requests by the federal government, which what that is, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, will send the local jurisdiction a request to hold an alien so that they can come and get them to put them in deportation proceedings. Well, San Francisco has not honored 530 of those immigration holds, and 345 of those holds were threat level 1 and 2 offenses. We're talking murder, rape, assaults, and whatnot. So San Francisco made the top of our list. New York.
Yeah, but before we go on, I just have to say that this is it's interesting because the left always complains about, the gap between the rich and the poor. I spent a lot of time in the Bay Area. I went to school there, and it's just amazing because there isn't a piece of property in the city under $1 million, and yet it's got rampant homelessness. It's a sanctuary for illegal aliens. There's no place on earth that's a better example of the stratification of wealth between the upper and lower classes, and yet it's our wokest city. It's the most left-wing, the most PC city. This never comes up, like only maybe sometimes on conservative talk radio, but no one points this out that their experiment is failing out there.
Oh, absolutely. And as with most of these sanctuary cities, when you look at the crime rates, if they're going to thumb their nose at the rule of law, they're going to do it wholesale across the board. So you see murder rates, you see crime rates skyrocket when these cities institute sanctuary policies. It creeps into every other area of life, and it will ruin a community.
Okay, so
we have ranked next, and by the way, most of us know that San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi represents. You'll find that our top three in our list of shame, Nancy Pelosi, AOC, and Representative Omar represent these jurisdictions.
I'm stunned. So let's go. So what's number two? Number two worst sanctuary to live in?
New York City, New York. New York has failed to honor over 19 ICE detainer requests, which almost 1,300 were classified as threat level 1 and 2 offenses. They are releasing these criminals back out onto the street, and ICE statistics show that these criminal aliens are reoffending again and again. Just recently, the New York Daily News reported that from July 1st of 2018 to June of this year, New York City had ignored 2,900 ICE detainer requests. And we're talking about particularly evil people here. We're talking about MS-13 gang members who are terrorizing the city. So New York made number two. Close behind was Minneapolis, Minnesota, who is represented by Representative Omar. Minneapolis and surrounding communities have an especially egregious crime rate as a result of numerous refugees being sent there, Somali refugees. They're seeing a lot of them leave the community to go fight for ISIS and al-Shabaab. Their jails there have dishonored ICE detainer requests, and many of those were threat level 1 and 2 offenses. So moving on, number 4, we have Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Philadelphia, the mayor there, he has this grudge against the president, and we all remember him doing his little celebratory dance when a court there upheld or struck down the Trump administration's withholding of grant money from them because they are a sanctuary city. The mayor there has done everything to assist criminal aliens. They are providing lawyers at taxpayer expense. The district attorney there has gone so far as to create a special program where the district attorney will look at charges brought against non-citizens, not citizens and legal residents, against non-citizens, and they look to downgrade the charges because under our federal immigration law, if you're convicted of committing certain charges, you will be deported from the country. So they are downgrading charges against non-citizens. Today, we have counted 120 criminals who have gotten lenient sentences as a result of their immigration status. And one of the particularly egregious policies we're seeing nationwide currently, the new wave of laws They're what's called 364-day laws that are being passed. New York has one of these, where if someone is going to be jailed for 365 days, that has federal immigration law consequences, if you're jailed for a year, you can be removed from the country. These jurisdictions are passing these 364-day laws. They downgrade one day so that these criminals get to stay in the country.
So far, just to recap, we have number one, San Francisco, number two, New York City. By the way, Bill de Blasio was saying that President Trump committed treason because he called Ukraine to ask why they were kicking checks over to Joe Biden's son. That's treason. Asking Ukraine, hey, what's up with why are you sending the vice president's son checks for nothing? That's treasonous, but having a sanctuary policy that is leading to a rise in crime in his city, which is crumbling before our eyes, not a big deal. Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is really the breeding ground of radicalism, if there is one in the United States, represented by Ilhan Omar, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where you've a incredibly anti-Trump mayor, Jim Kenney, there, who obnoxiously dances when Trump has loses due to activist judges in a court. Okay, and so now we're on to number five. What's number five?
Number five is Seattle, Washington, another Democrat stronghold, another blue jurisdiction who thumbs their nose at the rule of law. And we've seen numerous instances of recidivist crime by illegal aliens there. They refuse to turn over criminal aliens to ICE. Our numbers show that they've ignored 370 ICE detainer requests on illegal aliens, and over 290 of those were for threat level 1 and 2 offenses. We saw just this year a report of a criminal alien Mexican national who served 9 months in prison for raping a woman in a wheelchair. And then they ignored a detainer request from ICE to remove this guy. 3 days later, he goes back to his victim's house, dumps her out of a wheelchair, and tries to choke her out in front of her 3-year-old son. So people that say that sanctuary laws are humane and compassionate are out of their mind. They're dangerous and even deadly in a lot of cases. Number 6, we have Chicago.
So far, is there an example of sanctuary laws leading to less crime, or what is the stated justification? Because these numbers are, I mean, the anecdotes are staggering, but I can't imagine the numbers support this.
Well, they don't. They absolutely don't, and it goes against logic. The same foreign nationals that these politicians are claiming, well, you know, it makes our community safer because illegal aliens will be afraid to report crime if we cooperate with the feds when they ask for someone. That's absolutely not true. Number one, the police do not put crime victims or witnesses in deportation proceedings. And in fact, we have special visa categories for witnesses of crime. They can get a green card if they become a witness or if they become they are a victim of crime. So it goes against logic. And in fact, these same criminals that are being released back into the communities are often going back into the immigrant communities and victimizing innocent people. So there is no logic to it.
All right, so let's continue. So 5 is Seattle, and then next is
Chicago, Illinois, and no surprise there.
Well, the only surprise is it's down at number 6. I mean, they actually had to they popped a sparkling apple cider to celebrate only being number 6 on your list.
Yeah, it's really hard to rank these cities. It's their policies are so egregious. In ranking them, we looked at the number of detainer requests ignored and particularly egregious crimes that occurred in their jurisdiction. But, in our opinion, they're all equally bad. But it's number 6, Chicago. And in 2012, they passed what they called a welcoming ordinance. All immigrants, even criminals, are welcome here. And then by the end of that year, 2012, Chicago was the nation's murder capital. As we said, shootings rise, crime rises when jurisdictions ignore the rule of law. They have problems with gang violence. We know this, and federal officials have claimed that their gang violence is 100% tied to Mexican cartels. They're on pace this year to meet or outdo the number of homicides that were committed last year in their jurisdiction. All that being said, they've refused to work with ICE. Of the over 200 ICE detainer requests they've received recently, they refused to honor. Over 100 of them were for threat level 1 and 2 offenses. And then now we come into a place close to where I live, Montgomery County, Maryland, and Fairfax County, Virginia, tied for number 7. And
so this is really interesting on this one, because we've done a lot of reporting on Breitbart on this, and this is one where I think it does surprise people, particularly people who don't read Breitbart, that the neighboring counties to D.C. have lots of illegal alien crime, a lot more than you'd suspect. How did it get this way? Because we're far from any border here. We're about as far away from a border as you can get, and it is. This is where there's been a huge congregation of illegal aliens. A lot of them are protected with sanctuaries. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of Democrat, a lot of working class voters, and a lot of them don't like it also. This is not just a partisan issue on this one. Dale?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree. I'm certainly not coming down on your average, everyday, hardworking Democrat. I'm coming down on these politicians, these individuals who are trolling for votes, potential future votes in these big cities. And usually what happens, illegal aliens migrate to the big cities. And even though D.C. and D.C. suburbs is not on the border, they get transported into the big cities where they have sanctuary policies, where they can disappear into the background. So, yeah, D.C. has a problem here. And in fact, number 7 is Montgomery County, Maryland, Fairfax County, Virginia, and number 8 is Prince George's County, Maryland. So there you have 3 Washington, D.C. suburbs. And Montgomery County, Maryland, oh, wow, there's so much that could be said here. The county executive has doubled down, even though in the last 2 months, since they initiated their new sanctuary policy, July 25th, there have been 10 cases of more than 10 illegal aliens committing sexual assaults in that community. We're talking about victims as young as 6 years old. Last week, a report of a man he admitted, I believe, to the sexual assault. He just said he didn't rape the 6-year-old. At knife point, we're an 11-year-old girl, a 12-year-old girl, a 16-year-old girl. I mean, this is absurd. Innocent people are suffering, and these politicians need to be held to account for these sanctuary policies. Fairfax County, Virginia, very publicized cases out of there of MS-13 gangs. Kidnapping and murdering teenagers. Prince George's County, Maryland, at number 8, you have the same story, MS-13. Detainer requests were ignored there, and many of the offenses were for threat level 1 and 2 offenses, and very serious crimes. The Prince George's County Department of Corrections refuses to cooperate with ICE. They will not turn over people, and we saw a sad case in May where police arrested 2 illegal alien members of MS-13 for the murder of a 14-year-old girl. So number 9, we have Boston, Massachusetts, very famous, very proud. The politicians there, Marty Walsh, the mayor, for its sanctuary policy. We've seen an individual who is wanted in Guatemala for the rape and mass murder of at least 70 women and 107 children find refuge there and is hiding out, and the city refuses to cooperate with ICE to turn over that individual. And then number 10 on our list.
Now, hold on. Let me reset again. We got Dale Wilcox here, and we're going through his list with the Immigration Reform Law Institute top 10 or bottom 10, however you want to call it, sanctuary cities across America breaking now. And we're going to have this. We'll give you all the details for you at Breitbart.com. And we're going through, those of you just tuning in, San Francisco is number 1, New York number 2, Minnesota number 3, Philadelphia number 4, Seattle was number 5, Chicago was number 6. 7 and 8 are a combination of Beltway adjacent counties. Number 9, Boston. And finally, number 10, this one's a bit of a surprise and very interesting considering that this is near a lot of our tech elite. Go ahead there, Dale.
Santa Clara County, California. Santa Clara County has had a sanctuary policy for what seems like eons. They were one of the first, and they have had recidivist criminal aliens in their possession repeatedly and refused to work with ICE. They have refused to honor over 1,600 immigration holds, and 900 of those were threat level 1 and 2 offenses. We have listed in our report here an example of an individual, an illegal alien from El Salvador. He's been arrested 10 times by the police, and ICE has put a hold on him 7 times. And the county there has refused every request. I mean, it just boggles the mind. ICE has asked for him 7 times to remove him from the country, and the county has said, no, we prefer to keep this criminal in our jurisdiction. It makes no sense, and these politicians need to be held account. There's no excuse for this. They are, putting the concerns of dangerous illegal aliens over law-abiding residents.
All right, Dale Wilcox. So last question for me. What can we take away from this other than that? Don't live in a sanctuary county if you want to keep your family safe. I mean, I guess that kind of goes without saying if you can avoid it. But what else is there to do? Because this lawlessness, it's funny. We poke fun at it in order to lighten the mood. But it's frightening that this is allowed. And as I noted at the top of the segment, it's the one law I can think of where certain governments just or certain localities refuse to uphold a law that is designed to protect our sovereignty and to protect our citizens, and it's just being ignored, and it's being ignored for purely cynical political purposes. It's terrible stuff. Is there anything we can do?
Well, to your comment, lawlessness breeds lawlessness. That's why this is occurring. That's
Amen.
The bottom line. Is there anything we can do? Well, when elections occur, we need to hold politicians accountable for their positions. That's the only thing that we can do. We saw this craziness yesterday in D.C., where I live and work, shutting down streets and whatnot because of closely, firmly held beliefs, whether right or wrong. People need to be outraged at what's going on in these cities, and they need to rise up and do something about it. Vote these people out. Don't make an issue of this. Don't let them sweep it under the rug, because that is what they are trying to do.
Dale Wilcox, wonderful work. Thank you for the breaking story. Again, going through the 10 top sanctuary cities, Immigration Reform Law Institute. Anything else you can plug where we can find you online and keep up with your work?
Sure. You can find us at, you can go to our website, and it's IRLI.org. That's IRLI.org. And you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. On Twitter, we are at IRLI Law.
Thanks so much, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.